For artists, there's no better feeling than consistent creative output. Life makes sense, we're energized, we're inspired by life, we're showing up to our craft, we're putting out our best, it just feels good. And then on the other side of that, when we're not doing it, when we feel the desire or the calling to create, but we can't get ourselves to sit down and just do the work. It can be a suffocating, drowning feeling of I'm not showing up to my art. And so I wanted to make a video that I would find helpful. This is how to get in the mindset to do your best creative work. Before we get into the actual steps of how to do your best creative work, I just want to state the reminder to get into a creative flow state. The flow state where time disappears and you're just doing your best work and you're not overthinking and you're just doing and it just feels good, and it's both this mix of challenge but playfulness. Like this creative flow state doesn't come instantly. It's like a spiral, and we start at the top of our normal consciousness and we slowly descend downward into flow. And after a while, we're down here in the depth of our creativity. And that's what we're trying to get to, is down this spiral. We all start here, and sometimes we just swirl and swirl and swirl. And why can't we get down here, down to the depth of our creativity? These steps are aiming to get us from here to here. So the first thing you're going to do is decide on the one thing you're going to work on for that creative flow session. One tangible, granular thing that you're going to put all your attention into. And the objective here is that you're showing up to your creative work session with just crystal clear focus on this is the only thing that matters. Sometimes when we sit down with like 3 to 5 things that we want to knock out, we sit down and then we're left with some decision fatigue. Am I going to start here, or should I start here, or should I start here? Or you can start working on something, and then the second it gets hard, you task switch, and then you switch, and then you switch, and then you switch. You realize you've just kind of been swimming in circles. You've kind of just been touching the surface of all these different tasks, when really what we're looking for here is depth. To get to that place of flow, we have to be focused on one thing at a time. We're building a cathedral one brick at a time. The second thing is shift into play consciousness. So what does that mean? Sometimes we look at our creative work as this very important thing that we need to show up to and be very serious and take it serious. There's good intentions there because our creative work is the most important work we can be doing. And so yes, we want to treat it as like the most important sacred thing. We want to show up to it with discipline. But can we do that in a playful sense? Because there's a very different consciousness of I'm going to do this because I have to and I should, and I'm going to grind through it. And then there's a different consciousness that says I'm going to have fun with this and I'm going to play with this. I'm going to see what happens. I think we have so much more access to creative thinking, to our best thinking, when we're in a play consciousness. As best as we can, how can we, before we drop into our flow session, remind ourselves that like, yes, this is important to me, but how can I show up in a way that's playful? How can I treat this like a game? How can I remind myself that I don't have to do this, that I don't have to grind through this, but I get to, and I get to play with this. Like bring that childlike version of yourself back online and allow that to be the energy in which you drop into your one task. Create a clean and contained setting. Again, we're trying to stay within this philosophy of narrowing distractions so that we can just focus on the one thing in front of us and drop really deep with that one thing. Clear your space. Take 10 minutes and just make the place clean so that you don't subconsciously have all these open tabs when you look around your space, things out of order. They kind of just mentally make you leak energy, and what we're trying to do is just consolidate our energy into this one creative act. Establish your timing. How long are you going to work for? Because if you don't answer that question, you're going to go into the session and repeatedly be asking yourself, should I continue or should I stop? Should I continue or should I stop? Going back to this decision fatigue, something as simple as how long are you going to be working for is a decision that you can make up front so that when you're in the flow session, there are no other decisions you need to make. Have a fun drink next to you. Have a coffee, have a tea, have a Newtonic productivity drink. These are very good. Good job, Chris. Put your phone away. Take your phone. Take it out of the room. Put it in a bag. Put that bag in a different bag. Put that different bag in the backyard. Make sure the dog is guarding that bag. We're just trying to put that away. The second your creative work gets challenging and frustrating and starts to strain, which is going to happen, the ability to reach for distraction is just the absolute killer. We're trying to create a spiral here. We're trying to go into the depth of creative work. And so every time we reach for our phone, it's like pulling us out of the hole so that we have to start digging again. Oh, phone, dig again, dig again. Oh, with the phone, it's so easy for me to never actually get to this level of depth. Utilize sound. So I found it so easy for me to go deeper into that spiral of creativity and flow when I have a sound that is almost guiding me there, a neutral sound that isn't changing songs every minute, that doesn't have lyrics. I like to use like binaural beats. I like to use brown noise. I've been listening to this Batman theme. Yeah, that's good. Give yourself time to feel frustrated. It's going to be a strain. It's going to be challenging. It's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym and just lift the lightest weights and hope that good things are happening. Creativity, I think, is the same thing. It's almost like, can we treat this like a law of gravity and just like expect this every single time we go into a creative session? Like, it's going to be difficult. There's going to be about 20 minutes where I just feel like, I'm not in the mood. This is hard. This feels like trudging through mud. What if that was just like gravity? It's just there. It just is. It's just a force of nature in the creative process. So expect that going into it, and give yourself the grace of not feeling like anything is going wrong. And just imagine this is you at the gym, pumping your creative bicep muscles. End on a high note. This might be my favorite tip. When I can do this, when I can pour a couple hours of super focused time into my creative work, and then I leave it, and I kind of leave on a high note, knowing I could have done a little bit more, but I'm ending it anyways, I find that I get so much energy poured back into my life and into my days. I start to think about the work I did that day throughout the rest of my day. I start to mull on it, and I start to feel excited to show up for it the next day, because I didn't burn myself out on that session. I didn't push as hard as I physically could, only to end and be depleted and exhausted, which only makes showing up the next day that much more of a drag. And of course, there's sometimes I love to just send it. I love to go until my eyes burn. When I do that, those days often require on the back end, like, recovery. 2 to 3 hours is really effective. If you're focusing on one thing and if you're dropping into a deep flow state, we underestimate how much can get done in 2 to 3 hours. Like, it's building a cathedral one brick at a time. Over time, I have something beautiful that's being built, and it becomes addicting. When you end your creative session just a little sooner than you know you could put in another hour or two if you wanted to, but you pull it back and you end it, it almost makes you excited because you know exactly where you want to pick up the next day, and it leaves you feeling almost addicted to your craft. And the person who's addicted to their craft and then just can't wait to sit down and do their creative work again is inherently the person that's going to do it more often. And the person that does the creative work more often is inherently going to be the person that has more creative output. Creative output is like the best feeling for artists. So the more you can put out and the more you can create, just the better you feel. It feels really good to be creating and to be doing so consistently and to be doing so at a depth that you want to be doing. These steps have been really helpful for me, and I make this video for myself as much as for anybody else, just as a reminder for the simple ingredients that lead to my most creative work and happiness, because when I'm creating, I'm happy.